Well, hello everyone. I wanted to turn around and spend a little time and talk more about operant conditioning. I also wanted to get into some elements such as punishment as well, because it's a form of adversive conditioning. But before I do that, I wanted to show you operant conditioning applied. Okay, scenarios and situations where it has been put into use and been studied and so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and get started. Just a second there. All right. Um, if you haven't already watched the video on operant conditioning and the differences between positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, and punishment, and you haven't had a chance to see the material dealing with the schedules of reinforcement, I really suggest you stop right this moment and turn around instead and watch that first so you have a feel for how some of this goes. Now, with that being said, if you have, let me turn around and talk a little bit about B.F. Skinner once again and what is called the Skinner box. It originally was referred to as the operant conditioning box, and Skinner always referred to it as that. It was a box that he created. It was made of metal and glass, and you could put a lab rat inside of it. All right, and basically what the box had was a little bar that was present. There was also a small little door where some food could appear. All right. And with time, you could teach a lab rat how to press a bar and get the food to appear. Right. Now, we talked before about schedules of reinforcement, such as a fixed ratio and a variable ratio, and how that would apply, where you could eventually teach a lab rat to continuously press a bar, to continuously get food, or to do it on different circumstances, and so on. But I want to ask you this. Imagine if you're working in a lab. You are a graduate student in psychology, and part of your degree program requires you to spend some time in what we would call a rat lab. All right. And one of the things you have to do is how to teach an experimental lab rat how to press a bar. And maybe what you do is this. You might have a device or a little switch in your hand that you can sit there and teach the lab rat. If the lab rat gets closer and closer to the bar, you go ahead and reward it. At first, if it's like playing hot and cold. If you're getting warmer, you can hit this little button in your hand and cause food to appear without the lab rat actually pressing the bar. And if everything works fine, eventually it will get to the bar and press it, and it will get the food all by itself. But before any of that happens, you get a brand new lab rat. You're brand new at this game of experimental psych and this idea of teaching a lab rat how to press a bar. And you've got this little clicker in your hands, all right? And could be something, I'm using a marker here, but maybe it's connected by a cable to the box. And if the lab rat gets close enough, you can press the clicker, and then basically there's a little buzzing sound and the food appears. Well, as you begin your little test, old Butterfingers, you turn around and the lab rat is way off to one side, just completely away from where the food and the bar is, and you accidentally hit the button. And the lab rat notices that the little trap door swings open and there's food in there. It smells it and it runs over and gobbles it up. And consider this. Where do you think that lab rat's going to go next? Is it going to stay there at the door? It might, and hope that the door opens and more food appears. But you know what we found? That the lab rat a lot of times will go back to the place it was right before the food appeared, as if being in that place is what caused it to occur. In reality, what caused the food to occur was, you, the experimenter, not paying attention, and you accidentally pressed the button. It's all in fun, okay? The lab rat has made what I would call a false association. It has assumed that being in that corner is what has caused its good fortune and food to appear, when in fact that has nothing to do with it. In reality, humans do something of the same thing. we can be thrust into situations where maybe good fortune falls upon us. And what do? We are playing a particular sport and maybe we win, or we turn around and we are wearing a brand new outfit when we get a promotion or a raise or a compliment or something good happens. Or we carry out a particular action before we go to the casino and we win, $150 on a slot machine. So what do people do in these circumstances? They sometimes turn around and they carry out all those same actions they did the day of their good fortune, as if those are the things that caused their good fortune. They they now refer to them as their lucky socks, because they were wearing a particular brand of socks when they won $150 on a slot machine or something like that. All of this making a false association where there really is none, assuming that something you did is what caused your good luck, is an example of what we call superstition. A lot of people think of superstition and they think of the paranormal. They think of the supernatural. And it sort of is a disappointment when you realize that superstition really is nothing more than learning theory. You've made a false association where there really is none. I've heard of people turning around playing sports in high school and even college that never wash their socks, or they turn around and they always you know carry with them a particular item that was given to them by a boyfriend or a girlfriend while they're playing because it brings them good luck. And by God, it did the last time they played, so they keep on doing it. You're making a false association where there really is none. The association had nothing to do with your good fortune, but you do it anyways. Okay? To give you one of the ultimate examples, I talk about Las Vegas. Okay? Las Vegas, with all their slot machines, is a wonderful example of operant behavior. And I can turn around and talk about this place here. This is called the MGM Grand Hotel and Casino. At one time, it was the biggest hotel casino in the world with over 4,000 hotel rooms. I mean, 4,000 hotel rooms. I've told students that if you stayed in a different room every night, okay, it would take over 10 years to stay in them all. 4,000 hotel rooms. That's an awful lot of rooms. If you take a look, this is a picture of the old MGM Grand. It's on Las Vegas Boulevard, the Strip, and the corner of Tropicana. And MGM is a movie theater, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. And they used to turn around and have a movie theme at this casino. And you ever hear of, I think it's Leo the Lion, that in an MGM movie, he'd start off the movie with the big growl. Well, excuse me, they added him into the casino. And you had to walk in underneath this huge model of the lion. Certain people of certain cultures who were what we call high rollers started to voice their displeasure about coming to this particular casino. And they would spend a lot of money. And they said, we're not coming anymore because in our culture, the lion is very powerful. And they told this to the executives at MGM Grand. We're not coming back. We're taking our money elsewhere. And they said, why? Well, because we feel like we're being gobbled up by the lion. Very strong image in our culture. So they made some concessions. They offered to give them another entrance, a VIP entrance. They tried to explain to them that, this is really not the case. They were superstitious. And they could not seem to get these high rollers to be convinced to stay at their hotel. So what did they do? They spent over $100 million in over a year's time to completely renovate the front of the hotel to take away the superstitious aspects. And what you see on the right is what the MGM Grand looks like right now. All right, you no longer enter through the mouth of the lion. You never did enter through the mouth of the lion. You came in underneath the lion, but that didn't matter to them. So this is the entrance now, and you actually come in on escalators on either side. They've made a lot of renovations, but this is the power of superstition. $100 million renovation to a hotel and casino in downtown Las Vegas, all based off of a false association that a lion will bring you bad luck. The next thing I want to talk about is a completely different concept called shaping. Shaping, simply put, is creating a complex behavior by chaining together a lot of smaller behaviors. Okay, creating a complex behavior by chaining together a series of smaller behaviors. The same thing is done if you ever turn around and want to teach a lab rat to run through a maze, or even teach a dolphin or a porpoise to jump out of the water. With the maze, you might turn around and if you want to teach a lab rat to run through a sophisticated maze, you might actually start at the end where the food is located and put the lab rat there. You begin with a simple behavior. Maybe the lab rat has to take about 5 steps to get to the food. And once it learns to do that, then you might take the lab rat and make the behavior more complex. You might pick it up and put it down a little ways so that it's a little farther away. Now it has to make a left turn and a right turn to get to the food. And after 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 exposures to this, and it learns that, you might put the lab rat even farther back into the maze. Now it has to take an extra turn or 2 or 3 to get to the food. And over time, you shape its behavior. You keep putting the lab rat farther and farther away, and it has to keep making the lefts and rights to get there. All right? The same with teaching a dolphin, say at SeaWorld, to jump out of the water and take a fish out of your hands. You would never, as a trainer, get into one of these devices and lift yourself 25 feet out of the air and expect the dolphin to immediately jump that high. There's a good chance it wouldn't do it. But if the dolphin is hungry enough, you might have that crane, as you see there, lowered down to water level, right? So that maybe you're even partially in the water, and have the dolphin come up and take the fish out of your hand. Once it's good at doing that, next step is to make it more complicated. You shape its behavior. Maybe you raise the crane out of the water by 3 or 4 feet. And once the dolphin is good at coming up out of the water 3 feet to take the fish out of your hands, maybe you raise it up to 6 or 7 feet. And once it's good at that, then maybe 10 or 12 feet, and you just keep increasing it. This is the idea behind shaping behavior. Even teaching a child how to count to 20, you might use shaping. If they're very young, you might be happy if they can count to 3. 1, 2, 3, and you reward that. But after a while, that's not enough. Now they've got to count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And once they do that, you reward that. And then after a while, then you increase it again. You shape their behavior. Now you've got to count to 10. And then once they get that, to 15, and maybe ultimately to 20. Okay? Shaping can be used to teach an awful lot of behavior, and it is very effective. To create a complex behavior, you start with little behaviors, reward them as you go, and make them more complicated to get to your ultimate goal. Sorry about that. There we go. Some people refer to this as negative punishment. All right? And the whole idea behind punishment by application is, as I said, you apply something adversive. You apply something adversive. You turn around and you give someone a speeding ticket because they've gone much too fast, and now they're going to be out some money to get it taken care of. Or with a small child, you might give them a spanking. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not trying to advocate violence. I'm very, very cautious with using something like that. But it is, for sake of the lecture, an example of punishment by application. Some people don't realize there is more than one type of application here, okay? There is also other types of punishment as well. Instead of applying something negative, you can also use what is called punishment by removal. Now, punishment by removal is not a case of applying something negative. This is actually taking away something that is pleasurable, all right? Some people say, oh, that sounds like negative reinforcement. No, no, no. Taking away something pleasurable is what punishment by removal is all about. All right? And a lot of times with very, very young children, maybe a quick swat on the bottom will work, but you can't do that with older children, teenagers, and so on. So you turn around and you take away something they like. One of the best examples of punishment by removal is, to me, the cell phone. Okay, to tell your child you're in trouble, give me your cell phone, you'll get it back next week. And to be honest, some kids would turn around and probably rather get the spanking, don't misunderstand me, than to lose their cell phone for a week or something of that sort. But that's how it's perceived. All right. When it comes to punishment, there's more to punishment than just punishment by application. There's also even punishment by removal. Okay, that's enough for now. Do take care. Talk to you soon.